Tonight, we leave behind the story that Tolkien wrote and step onto a road that was never taken. A single moment, a single choice of fate, one battle ending differently, and all of Middle-earth forever changed. For in the true tale, Gandalf cast down Durin's Bane upon the peak of Zirigil. The Balrog perished, and Gandalf himself returned as the White. But what if that victory never came? What if the ancient demon of fire survived? What if, for the first time since the Elder Days, a Balrog once again walked freely beneath the open sky, not as the servant of Sauron, not as the last shadow of Morgoth, but as something far more dangerous, a lord owing allegiance to no one, a power as ancient as Sauron himself, a being who had hidden beneath the roots of the misty mountains for thousands of years, and now hungered for the world above. So before we begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy exploring the greatest what-if stories in Tolkien's legendarium. And tell me in the comments, do you believe the Balrog would have joined Sauron or challenged him? Now let the fire burn low. Listen to the wind upon the mountains, and let us climb once more to the endless stair. High above Moria, high above the clouds, where two ancient powers fought beneath the naked sky. Long they battled. From the deepest foundations of Khazad-dûm to the snow-covered crown of Zirak-Zidil. Fire met lightning. Shadow met light. The mountain itself trembled beneath their struggle. Below them, no eye witnessed the duel. Only the wind carried its echoes across forgotten peaks. The Balrog wielded a sword of living flame. Its whip cracked through the air like thunder. Around it rolled smoke so dark that even daylight seemed dim beside it. Opposite stood Gandalf. His white staff blazed against the darkness. Glamdring flashed like cold starlight. Again and again they struck. Stone shattered beneath their feet. Ice burst into steam. The snows of Zirak-Zidil melted into torrents that rushed down the mountainside. Neither yielded, neither retreated, for both knew only one would leave that summit. At last, Gandalf gathered what remained of his strength. He lifted Glamdring high. Light burst across the mountain. The Balrog staggered. Its fiery form faltered. The ancient demon stumbled toward the broken edge of the peak. Then Gandalf struck. The mountain split beneath them. But fate chose a different road. The Balrog fell, yet not into death. Its whip lashed upward one final time, not toward Gandalf, but toward the shattered stone itself. The ancient demon caught the broken cliffs below. Its burning claws tore through the mountainside. Rock collapsed around it. Snow vanished in clouds of steam. Far beneath the summit, the Balrog disappeared into darkness once more. Gandalf watched, waiting, listening. Silence. Only the wind answered. His strength was spent, his body broken. Believing the enemy destroyed at last, the gray pilgrim sank to the cold stone. His eyes closed, his spirit departed, and Middle-earth lost its greatest guide. Far below, deep within the broken caverns beneath Zirak-Zidil, two eyes opened. Like molten gold beneath rivers of ash, Durin's Bane still lived. For a long while, nothing stirred beneath the shattered mountain. Snow drifted silently across the broken summit of Zirik-Sigil. The wind swept through the ruined stones where Gandalf had drawn his final breath. The battle was over, or so the world believed. Deep beneath the peak, hidden within cracks no dwarf had ever carved, the Balrog endured. Its body was wounded. Flames that had once burned with terrible brilliance flickered weakly beneath layers of ash. Fragments of broken stone lay across its immense form. For many days, perhaps even weeks, the ancient Maya remained unmoving, not asleep, recovering. Its strength, though vast, had not escaped the price of battle. Never before had it faced an enemy like Gandalf, another Maya, one who understood its nature, one who could wound not only flesh, but spirit. Yet a Balrog was not easily destroyed. It had survived the War of Wrath. It had survived the fall of Morgoth himself. It had survived the drowning of Beleriand. For thousands upon thousands of years, it had hidden beneath Khazad-dûm, waiting in darkness, while kingdoms rose and vanished above its prison. One defeat would not end such a creature. Slowly, its fire returned. The first glow appeared within cracks of blackened skin, then heat, then smoke. At last, its eyes opened, like two furnaces awakening after a forgotten age. The Balrog rose. The cavern around it trembled. Broken stones slid into the abyss below. Steam hissed where fire touched ancient ice. For the first time since the Elder Days, Durin's Bane paused. Not from fear, from silence. For the voice that had once ruled all Balrogs was gone. Morgoth had perished long ago. His throne had become memory. The armies he commanded had turned to dust. There was no master left. Only the world, the Balrog climbed. Not downward toward Moria, upward toward light, toward air, toward the forgotten sky. For countless centuries it had dwelt beneath mountains. The world above had become little more than distant memory. Now, stone by stone, it climbed through broken passages opened during the battle. At last, it emerged. The clouds drifted across the mountain peaks. Cold wind swept over snow. The sun hung low above the western horizon. For a long moment, the Balrog simply stood. Its burning eyes wandered across Middle-earth. The white mountains lay far to the south. The endless line of the misty mountains stretched beyond sight. Forests covered the valleys below. Rivers shone like silver threads beneath the afternoon light. It had not seen such a world since the First Age. Everything had changed. The kingdoms of Morgoth were gone. Angband had vanished beneath the sea. Beleriand no longer existed. Even the stars seemed unfamiliar. The Balrog understood none of the kingdoms below. It knew nothing of Gondor, nothing of Rohan, nothing of the Shire. Those names belonged to younger peoples, to shorter histories. Its memory reached back to a time before those realms had ever been imagined. The world before it felt strange, small, young, almost fragile. A deep breath escaped the ancient spirit. Smoke rolled across the mountainside. Snow vanished wherever it touched. The silence of the peaks ended. Birds scattered into the sky. Mountain goats fled along impossible cliffs. Even wolves hidden among the rocks abandoned their dens. The mountain itself seemed eager to see the creature depart. Slowly, the Balrog began to walk. Each step left blackened stone behind. Ice melted beneath burning feet. ancient pines burst into flame without ever being touched. It did not hurry. There was no destination, no command, no purpose given by another will. It walked because it was free. That freedom made it more dangerous than ever before, for no king could predict its path, no captain could defend against it, no messenger could bargain with it. The Balrog sought neither conquest nor alliance. It sought only movement, like a storm crossing the land, like fire carried by the wind. Far to the east, beyond leagues of mountain and plain, another ancient spirit stirred. Within the dark tower, Sauron felt it, not through sight, not through rumor, through power. A presence long thought buried beneath Khazad-dûm had awakened. An old servant of Morgoth had returned to the world. For a brief moment, the Dark Lord believed fortune had smiled upon him. Surely, the last of the Balrogs would answer the call of one who had once served the same master. Surely, the ancient fires of Angband would burn once more beside the hosts of Mordor. Sauron reached outward with his will, across mountains, across forests, across the empty leagues between them. His mind searched for the ancient Maya. It found him. For the briefest instant, two spirits recognized one another. Then, the Balrog turned away, without hesitation, without acknowledgement, without even the smallest sign of obedience. The connection vanished. Sauron remained silent. For the first time in many long centuries, the Dark Lord realized something deeply unsettling. Durin's Bane had not returned as his ally. It had returned as something else entirely. Another Lord of Shadow, another ancient power, one that bowed to no throne. And somewhere upon the western slopes of the Misty Mountains, the Balrog continued its slow descent into Middle-earth. The age of hidden evils had ended. The age of wandering fire had begun. The Balrog descended from the Misty Mountains without haste. It marched neither as a conqueror nor as a hunter. It simply walked. Each step scorched the earth. Snow vanished beneath its feet. Ancient pines burst into flame as it passed. Smoke rose into the clear spring sky, visible for leagues across the western lands. At first, the scattered folk of the mountains believed they had seen wildfire. Then came the survivors. Woodmen fled south with tales of a towering figure wreathed in living fire. Hunters spoke of forests burning without whitening. Shepherds abandoned their flocks after glimpsing glowing eyes in the darkness. Most who heard these stories dismissed them, until the fires continued. Village after village fell silent. Watchtowers reported columns of smoke rising from places untouched by war. Whatever walked the land was not an army. It left no camps, raised no banners, demanded no surrender. It passed through the wilderness like a force of nature. The wise soon realized the dreadful truth. This was no servant of Mordor. Durin's Bane had left Moria. The name alone carried terror. Among the elves, memories older than the sun awakened. Some still remembered tales whispered in Valinor of spirits clothed in shadow and flame. Among the dwarves, ancient grief returned. Their greatest kingdom had not nearly fallen. Its destroyer still lived. Messengers rode with desperate speed between Rivendell, Lorien, Erebor, and Minas Tirith. The same warning reached every lord. The Balrog was free. No army could prepare for what came next, for armies followed roads. They marched toward cities. They sought victory. The Balrog sought none of these things. It moved where it willed. across lonely valleys, through ancient forests, over forgotten hills where no kingdom claimed dominion. It was less like an invader and more like a living disaster. Where it walked, streams boiled, stone cracked beneath unbearable heat. Entire groves became fields of ash before a single sword could be drawn. Soon, its path turned south, toward the wide green plains of Rohan. The Rittermark had faced orcs before, wild men, even the armies of Saruman, but never this. The first villages did not fall to battle. They vanished beneath fire. Horsemen rode out expecting raiders. Only a handful returned. They spoke of a towering shadow wrapped in flame, of swords melting before they struck, of horses fleeing in terror long before the creature came into sight. The Rohirrim are more fearless warriors, yet courage alone could not overcome an enemy that seemed born before the world itself. King Theoden ordered the people to abandon the western settlements. The Great Plains emptied. Smoke covered the horizon. Thousands fled eastward, carrying little more than what their horses could bear. Yet the Balrog did not pursue them. It had no interest in conquest. It simply continued onward. Its course led toward Fangorn Forest. There, beneath the oldest trees in Middle-earth, something stirred. Treebeard had watched kingdoms rise and disappear. He remembered the elder days. He remembered whispers of beings made of fire. As the Balrog approached the forest, the Ents gathered, not for war, for defense. The first flames reached the ancient trees. Branches older than Numenor caught fire. The forest groaned. The sound echoed like mourning across the hills. The Ents fought desperately. They hurled stones. They tore great trunks from the earth. Yet fire was their oldest enemy. Where the Balrog walked, centuries of living wood burned within moments. Treebeard realized a terrible truth. Even Fangorn, oldest of forests, could not endure forever against such heat. Reluctantly, he ordered the Ents to retreat deeper into the untouched heart of the woods. For the first time in countless ages, Fangorn yielded ground. The news spread swiftly, not merely through men, through elves as well. Messengers arrived in Lorien, carrying grim reports. The Golden Wood had long remained untouched by war. Protected by the wisdom of Galadriel and the hidden power of Menya, it had become a refuge against the growing darkness. But this was no ordinary darkness. Galadriel stood upon the high flats and looked eastward. Far beyond the trees, a dark column of smoke climbed into the sky. She closed her eyes. Even across such distance, she felt it, an ancient Maya, burning with hatred older than the moon, not serving Sauron, not obeying any master, simply moving through Middle-earth as a force of destruction. She understood immediately. If the Balrog reached Lorien, the Golden Wood would face its greatest trial since the First Age. Across Middle-earth, fear grew. Not because another servant of Mordor had appeared, but because the world itself seemed to have awakened one of its oldest nightmares. The wise had long believed that Durin's Bane died upon Xeraxagil. Now they knew the truth. The ancient fire still lived, and without Gandalf, there remained no one who had ever faced a Balrog and survived. The Free Peoples had defeated dragons. They had resisted Sauron. They had endured the Nazgul. But this enemy belonged to an older world, an age when Morgoth himself walked beneath the stars. And for the first time since that forgotten age, the peoples of Middle-earth began to ask a question no one wished to answer. Who could possibly stop it? As fear spread across Middle-earth, the wise gathered once more, not in triumph, not in hope, but in uncertainty. Rivendell became the meeting place of those who still dared to resist. Elrond presided over the council. Beside him sat Galadriel, Lady of Lorien. Aragorn, heir of Isildur, had come from the north. Legolas represented the woodland realm. Gimli spoke for the dwarves, whose people knew the Balrog better than any living race. Never had such a council faced an enemy like this. Sauron could be opposed. His armies could be delayed. His servants could be slain. But Durin's Bane was different. It marched alone. It required no food, no sleep, no fortress, no army. It carried its own ruin wherever it walked. Silence filled the chamber. At last, Gimli spoke. He told them what every dwarf feared to admit. Khazad-dûm had not fallen because the dwarves lacked courage. Thousands had fought. The greatest warriors of Durin's house had stood against the ancient demon. None prevailed. Steel could not overcome it. Stone could not imprison it. Their proudest kingdom had become its prison, and even that prison had failed. Legolas then spoke of the ancient songs of the Eldar. Few among the elves still living had seen a Balrog with their own eyes, yet its memory endured. These were not beasts, not monsters. They were corrupted Maya, spirits of immense power, clothed in shadow and flame since the Elder days. To face such a being was to challenge something far older than the kingdoms of men. Then all eyes turned toward Galadriel. If anyone in Middle-earth possessed power great enough to oppose the Balrog, surely it was she. She remained silent for a long time. Then she slowly shook her head. She admitted that she might withstand the creature for a time, perhaps even drive it back. But victory, true victory, could not be promised. For she knew the cost of confronting a Maya. She herself bore Nenya, one of the three rings. Its power was preservation. It protected. It healed. It preserved beauty against the passing of time. The Balrog embodied the opposite: fire, destruction, ruin. Their powers were not alike. To oppose the Balrog would demand every ounce of her strength, and even then, the outcome would remain uncertain. Her thoughts then turned to another, Glorfindel. At the sound of his name, the chamber grew quiet. Among all those still dwelling in Middle-earth, none possessed a stranger history. In the Elder Days, during the fall of Gondolin, Glorfindel had stood upon a narrow mountain pass against a Balrog. The struggle ended with both of them falling into the abyss. Both perished. Yet Glorfindel alone returned. The Valar, seeing the purity of his spirit and the greatness of his sacrifice, restored him to life in the Blessed Realm. In time, he was sent back to Middle-earth. He walked once more beneath its skies, not merely as an elf lord, but as one who had crossed death itself. Those gifted with sight into the unseen world perceived him differently. His spirit shone with remarkable brightness. Even the Nazgul feared him. If any among the Eldar possessed both the courage and the power to challenge another Balrog, it was Glorfindel. For a brief moment, hope returned. Yet Elrond tempered it. History, he reminded the council, does not repeat itself so easily. The Balrog Glorfindel had slain belonged to to another age, another battlefield, another destiny. Victory had cost Glorfindel his own life. There was no promise that such a sacrifice could be repeated, especially now. This Balrog had survived Gandalf. That single fact weighed heavily upon every heart in the room. If Durin's Bane had endured a battle against Mithrandir, what chance remained for any other champion? Legolas wondered whether the great eagles might intervene. Their strength was legendary. Their coming had altered the course of many battles. Yet Gwaihir and his kin were no beasts of war, to be summoned at will. They were proud spirits of the air, independent, ancient. Even if they answered the call, the council doubted they could destroy the Balrog. Its whip of flame could reach the skies. Its fire would scorch even the mightiest wings. Victory through the eagles seemed uncertain at best. Aragorn spoke next. His voice carried neither despair nor false confidence. He admitted freely that no sword forged by men could hope to match the strength of a Balrog. Andúril had been reforged from the shards of Narsil. It was a blade worthy of kings. Yet even such a weapon could not erase the difference between a mortal man and a fallen Maya. Courage alone would not be enough. Still, Aragorn refused to surrender hope. History, he said, was filled with victories that had seemed impossible, not because the strongest prevailed, but because the free peoples stood together. His words brought comfort, but not certainty. Then a darker thought entered the council, one that no one wished to speak aloud. If Sauron still possessed the One Ring, would he have been able to defeat the Balrog? The silence that followed was answer enough. Perhaps he could. Perhaps only another Maya, wielding power equal to the Balrog's own, could truly overcome such an ancient spirit. It was a grim realization. The Free Peoples had lost Gandalf. Sauron remained in Mordor. And between them wandered an enemy that acknowledged neither. At last, Elrond rose. He looked upon every face gathered before him. Then he spoke quietly. We seek the one who can slay the Balrog. He paused. Perhaps we asked the wrong question. The company watched him in silence. What if no one can? Those words settled over Rivendell like winter frost. For the first time, every soul in the chamber considered the same dreadful possibility. Perhaps this war could not be won. Perhaps the greatest hope of the Free Peoples was no longer victory, but survival. Outside Rivendell, the evening wind stirred the leaves. Far to the south, another column of smoke rose above the forests. The Balrog had not stopped. It was still coming, and time was running out. The council ended without certainty. No great strategy had been discovered, no ancient prophecy revealed, no hidden weapon brought forth from forgotten vaults. Only one truth remained. The Balrog could not be ignored. If left unchecked, it would continue westward. Sooner or later, every kingdom would feel its passing. So, the Free Peoples prepared, not for victory, for sacrifice. Messengers rode to every corner of Middle-earth. The beacons of Gondor were lit. The riders of Rohan gathered once more upon the plains. Archers filled the walls of Lorien. The dwarves sealed the gates of Erebor, fearing that if the ancient spirit turned north, even the lonely mountain might become another Khazad-dûm. Yet through all these preparations, one question haunted every captain. Where would the Balrog strike next? No one knew. It marched without reason that mortal minds could understand. One day, it crossed empty hills where no living soul dwelt. The next, it reduced a watchtower to molten stone before continuing on its path without pause. It conquered nothing, claimed nothing. Its passing resembled a wildfire carried by the wind, power without ambition, destruction without purpose. Perhaps that was what frightened the wise most. Even Sauron desired a kingdom. The Balrog desired only movement. As the weeks passed, stories followed its path. Entire forests blackened beneath its shadow. Rivers hissed into clouds of steam. Animals fled long before the creature appeared. Birds abandoned the skies above it. Even wolves refused to follow. Nature itself recoiled from the ancient fire. Then, at last, the Balrog reached the borders of Lorien. The golden wood had stood untouched for centuries. Its trees seemed almost eternal. Their leaves shimmered with a beauty preserved by the power of Menya. No orc army had ever broken its defenses. No shadow had fully entered its heart. Now the oldest forest of the elves faced one of the oldest servants of Morgoth. Galadriel stood beneath the great Maloran trees. She did not flee. She did not hide. As the Balrog emerged from the woods beyond the Silverlode, the Lady of Lorien raised her hand. The air itself seemed to change. Light spread beneath the trees, not harsh, not blinding, gentle, ancient. The same power that had preserved Lorien for countless years now stood against living fire. For a moment, the Balrog stopped. The forest fell utterly silent. Fire met light, destruction met preservation. Neither yielded. The trees nearest the Balrog burst into flame. Yet deeper within the golden wood, the fire simply would not spread. The power of Menya held it back. Not forever, but long enough. Long enough for Galadriel to understand. She could defend Lorien. She could delay the Balrog, but she could not destroy it. Eventually, even her strength would fail. Slowly, the Balrog turned away, not defeated, not driven back, simply choosing another road. Lorien had survived, but only barely. The victory felt hollow, for everyone understood the truth. The Balrog still lived. It would simply carry its fire elsewhere. Word of the encounter spread swiftly. Hope faded once again. If even Galadriel could only delay the ancient demon who remained. The answer was painful. No one, not among the free peoples, not without Gandalf. Far away in Mordor, Sauron watched with growing frustration. He had expected the Balrog to weaken his enemies. Instead, it weakened everyone equally. Its flames cared nothing for kingdoms, nothing for alliances, nothing for his own ambitions. The Dark Lord had discovered what the wise already feared. Durin's Bane belonged to no cause but its own existence. It had become a second catastrophe in Middle-earth, one that even Sauron could neither command nor predict. Thus, the War of the Ring changed forever. No longer did the free people stand against a single shadow. They struggled to survive between two ancient powers. One sought dominion, the other brought only ruin. And between them lay the kingdoms of men, the realms of the elves, and the halls of the dwarves, caught in a struggle that none had foreseen. In the end, perhaps the greatest victory the Free Peoples could hope for was no longer the defeat of evil, but simply enduring long enough to see another dawn. The end.